"You've got to be kidding me," Admiral Zix-23 of the Fukan Galactic Armada muttered, his three eyes blinking in rapid succession as he stared at the holographic display. "This can't be right." His second-in-command, Commander Vrok, peered over his shoulder, all four of her antennae twitching nervously. "What seems to be the problem, sir?" Zix-23 gestured wildly at the screen, his tentacles flailing in a manner that would have been comical if the situation weren't so dire. "The problem, Vrok, is that our state-of-the-art, supposedly unstoppable giggle guns aren't working as intended." Vrok's exoskeleton paled slightly. "You mean they're not? Disintegrating the humans?" "Oh, they're doing something all right," Zix-23 growled, pulling up a live feed from the surface of the primitive planet they were attempting to conquer. "But it's not exactly what we had in mind." The screen flickered to life, showing a bustling city street on Earth. Fukan troops, resplendent in their shimmering battle armor, were firing their weapons at the local populace. However, instead of the expected scenes of carnage and destruction, the humans were laughing. Baffing. Yes, everywhere the giggle guns struck, humans collapsed into fits of uncontrollable laughter. Some rolled on the ground, clutching their sides. Others leaned against buildings or each other, tears streaming down their faces as they howled with mirth. "Well," Vrok said, trying to find a silver lining, "at least they're incapacitated." Zix-23 shot her a withering look with all three eyes. "Incapacitated? They're having the time of their lives. Look at this." He zoomed in on a group of human teenagers who had managed to wrestle a giggle gun away from a very confused Fukan soldier. They were taking turns shooting each other and collapsing into hysterics.
"Sir," one of the bridge officers called out, "we're getting reports from all over the planet. The giggle guns are having the same effect everywhere. The humans seem to be enjoying it." Zix-23 slumped in his command chair, his tentacles drooping dejectedly. "Billions of credits in research and development, and we've created the galaxy's most expensive tickle machine. Fantastic."
As the Fukan invasion force grappled with this unexpected turn of events, word of the attack spread rapidly across Earth. Social media platforms exploded with videos of people voluntarily lining up to be shot by the alien weapons, treating it like some sort of intergalactic amusement park ride.
Meanwhile, in the White House Situation Room,
"Mr. President," the Secretary of Defense began, trying to keep a straight face. "I'm not sure how to put this, but we're under attack by aliens who are making us laugh." President Sarah Chen raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry, did I hear that correctly? Aliens are attacking us with comedy." "Not intentionally, ma'am," the CIA director chimed in. "From what we can gather, their weapons were supposed to, well, vaporize us. Instead, they're triggering some sort of uncontrollable laughter response in humans." The president leaned back in her chair, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "So, let me get this straight. A technologically advanced alien race has traveled across the galaxy to invade us, and their master plan is to tickle us into submission."
the room erupted into barely suppressed snickers and guffaws. Even the usually stoic Joint Chiefs of Staff were having trouble maintaining their composure.
"What's our response been so far?" President Chen asked, wiping a tear of mirth from her eye.
The Secretary of State cleared his throat. "Well, Madam President, it seems that civilians have been enthusiastically engaging with the alien forces. There are reports of people actually seeking out the alien troops to experience the effects of their weapons."
"Dear God," the President murmured, "we're treating an alien invasion like a new TikTok challenge." Just then, a young aide burst into the room, looking both excited and slightly embarrassed. "Madam President, I apologize for the interruption, but you need to see this." He quickly pulled up a video on the main screen. It showed a group of college students who had somehow managed to capture one of the alien soldiers. Instead of treating their prisoner with fear or hostility, they appeared to be teaching it how to do keg stands. The room watched in stunned silence as the alien, looking thoroughly confused but oddly willing, was hoisted upside down over a keg of beer. Its compatriots, who had apparently come to rescue it, stood off to the side, weapons forgotten, as they observed this strange human ritual with a mixture of horror and fascination. President Chen buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. This is how humanity makes first contact with an alien species. We're doomed.
As the day wore on, more and more reports flooded in from around the globe. In Rio de Janeiro, aliens had been dragged into impromptu carnival parades. In Tokyo, a group of salarymen had convinced some Fukan troops to join them for karaoke. And in Australia, there were unconfirmed reports of aliens being taught to surf.
Back on the Fukan mothership, Admiral Zix-23 was rapidly losing control of the situation. "What do you mean?" "Desertion," he bellowed at his communications officer. The poor alien wilted under his superior's glare. "Sir, we're getting reports from all over the planet. Our troops are fraternizing with the humans. Some have even discarded their weapons and armor."
Zix-23 felt a headache coming on in all three of his brains. "Show me," he growled. The main view screen lit up with a montage of scenes from Earth. In one, a group of Fukan soldiers were enthusiastically participating in a conga line down the Las Vegas Strip. In another, an alien was being taught the intricacies of making a perfect cup of tea by a kindly old British lady. And in a third, a thoroughly confused Fukan was trying to make sense of the rules of American football while tailgating outside a stadium.
"This is a disaster," Zix-23 moaned. "We came here to conquer these primitives and instead they're
Entertaining us," Commander Vroke supplied helpfully.
The Admiral shot her a venomous look. "We are the Fukan. We are the scourge of the galaxy. We do not get entertained by lesser species." Just then, an alert sounded from one of the control panels. "Sir," a junior officer called out, "we're detecting multiple small craft approaching the ship. They appear to be Earth satellites." Zix-23 frowned. "Impossible. Their technology isn't advanced enough to reach us in orbit. Put it on screen." The view screen changed to show a swarm of small, crudely constructed spacecraft approaching the Fukan mothership. As they drew closer, it became apparent that they were indeed Earth satellites, but they had been jury-rigged with what looked like rocket boosters stolen from the Fukan's own landing craft.
"How in the name of the Great Void did they manage that?" Zix-23 sputtered.
As if in answer to his question, the lead spacecraft hailed them. The face that appeared on the screen was that of a human female, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Greetings, alien dude," she said cheerfully. "I'm Dr. Emma Rodriguez, astrophysicist and apparently now amateur astronaut. We thought we'd pop up and say hello, maybe give you the grand tour of our solar system. You guys look like you could use a vacation." Zix-23 stared at the screen in disbelief. You hijacked our technology to reach us. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is?" "Doctor," Rodriguez shrugged. "YOLO, right? Besides, your tech is surprisingly user-friendly. It's like space IKEA up here." The Admiral felt his tentacles beginning to twitch uncontrollably. "This is not a game, human. We came here to conquer your world." "Yeah, about that," Emma said, her tone becoming slightly more serious. "We've been chatting with some of your troops down on Earth. Sounds like you guys have been at this whole galactic conquest thing for a while now. Don't you ever get tired of it?" Before Zix-23 could respond, another human face popped into view on the screen. This one belonged to a middle-aged man with a bushy moustache and a twinkle in his eye. "G-Day, mate," he said cheerfully. "Name's Bruce. I've got a couple of your alien buddies here with me. Say hi, fellas." The camera panned to show two very embarrassed-looking Fukan soldiers, both wearing Australia t-shirts and clutching what appeared to be cans of beer. "Oi, Admiral," one of them called out, his speech slightly slurred. "You got to try this stuff they call beer. It's like liquid happiness." Zix-23 felt his eye stalks beginning to throb. This was rapidly spiraling out of control. "Enough of this nonsense," he roared. "We are the Fukan. We do not chat with our conquests. We do not try beer. We conquer. We dominate. We." His rant was cut short as alarms began blaring throughout the ship. So his tactical officer shouted, "The humans. They're boarding us." What Zix-23 bellowed, whirling around to face the view screen again. Sure enough, the jury-rigged Earth satellites had managed to dock with the Fukan mothership. As he watched in horror, a stream of humans began pouring into the ship, led by Dr. Rodriguez and the mustached Australian. "Sorry for the intrusion," Emma's voice came over the intercom, sounding not sorry at all. "But we figured if you were going to visit our planet, it was only polite to return the favor. Plus, we brought snacks." The bridge erupted into chaos as humans began flooding in, carrying boxes of pizza, 6 packs of beer, and for some inexplicable reason, a karaoke machine. The Fukan crew, caught completely off guard, didn't seem to know whether to fight back or accept the offered slices of pepperoni pizza. In the midst of the madness, Zix-23 felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find himself face to face with a grinning human wearing a t-shirt that read "I visited Earth, and all I got was this lousy alien invasion." "Hey there, big guy," the human said cheerfully. "I'm Dave. Heard you were in charge around here. Want a beer?" Zix-23 stared at the proffered can, then at the chaos unfolding around him, then back at Dave's friendly face. With a defeated sigh, he reached out a tentacle and took the beer.
"You know," he said, popping the tab with a resigned air, "in all my cycles of conquering planets, I've never encountered a species quite like you humans."
Dave laughed, clinking his can against the Admiral's. "Yeah, we get that a lot. So, now that the whole invasion thing is off the table, what do you say we show you guys how to really party?" And so, as the Earth continued to spin below, blissfully unaware of how close it had come to destruction, the Fukan mothership became the site of the galaxy's most unlikely mixer. Aliens and humans mingled freely, swapping stories, teaching each other drinking games, and occasionally breaking into fits of laughter when someone got a hold of one of the giggle guns. In one corner, a group of Fukan engineers were engrossed in conversation with several human scientists, excitedly discussing the possibilities of combining their technologies. In another, an impromptu dance-off had broken out, with both species showing off their best moves to the pulsing beat of Earth music. Admiral Zix-23, his initial shock wearing off, and possibly aided by the effects of his third beer, found himself in deep conversation with President Chen, who had insisted on joining the party once she heard it was happening. "So let me get this straight," Zix-23 said, gesticulating with a slice of pizza. "Your species has over 7,000 languages, hasn't achieved unity under a single government, and yet you managed to repel our invasion through the power of friendship." President Chen shrugged, a smile playing on her lips. "What can I say? We're a complicated bunch, but when push comes to shove, we're pretty good at coming together, especially if there's a party involved." The Admiral shook his head in wonder. "It's just. In all our years of conquest, we've never encountered a species that reacted like this. Usually it's all screaming and running and futile resistance." "Well," Chen said, taking a sip of her drink, "maybe that's because you've been going about this all wrong. Have you ever considered, I don't know, just saying hello instead of trying to conquer everyone you meet?" Zix-23 blinked all three of his eyes in rapid succession. Well, no, it's just not the Fukan way." "Maybe it's time for a new way," Chen suggested gently. "Look around you. Your people seem to be enjoying themselves. When was the last time you saw them this relaxed?" The Admiral had to admit she had a point. All around the ship he could see his crew laughing, dancing, and generally having the time of their lives. It was so far removed from their usual rigid military discipline that it was almost shocking. Just then, Commander Vrock approached, looking slightly unsteady on her feet and wearing a lie of flowers around her neck. "Admiral," she said, her voice full of excitement, "you won't believe this, but the humans have invited us to something called a World Peace Conference. Apparently they want us to be the guests of honor." Zix-23 raised an eyebrow, or what passed for one on a Fukan. "A peace conference? But we tried to invade them." President Chen laughed. "Consider it our way of saying no hard feelings. Besides, I think we could all learn a lot from each other. What do you say, Admiral? Ready to try diplomacy instead of domination?" The Admiral looked around the room once more, taking in the sight of his people and the humans mingling so freely. He thought about the centuries of conquest, the endless cycle of war and subjugation that had defined the Fukan Empire for so long. And then he thought about the sheer absurdity and joy of the past few hours. With a deep breath, he turned back to President Chen and extended a tentacle. "Madam President," he said solemnly, "I believe we would be honored to attend your peace conference." As cheers erupted around them, Zix-23 couldn't help but marvel at the strange turn of events. They had come to Earth seeking to harness its unique energy, never suspecting that the true power of the planet lay not in its atmosphere, but in the irrepressible spirit of its people. In the days and weeks that followed, the story of the invasion that wasn't spread across the globe and beyond. The Fukan, once feared as the scourge of the galaxy, found themselves becoming something of a galactic sensation for an entirely different reason. Clips of Fukan soldiers attempting to do the Macarena went viral on every known form of social media, both terrestrial and alien. The giggle guns, once designed as weapons of mass destruction, were quickly repurposed as a revolutionary form of stress relief therapy. Though users were strongly advised not to operate heavy machinery or make important life decisions while under their influence. As for Admiral Zix-23, he found himself in the unexpected position of becoming an intergalactic ambassador for peace. His memoir, From Conqueror to Comic How Earth Taught Maine to Laugh, became an overnight bestseller across 17 star systems. The Fukan Empire, faced with the choice between continuing their warlike ways or embracing the newfound joy of intergalactic friendship, chose the latter. Their fearsome battle fleets were converted into luxury cruise liners, offering package tours to the funniest planets in the galaxy. Earth, of course, quickly became the #1 destination. As Zix-23 stood on the stage at the United Nations, preparing to address the assembled delegates of Earth and a fair number of increasingly curious alien observers, he couldn't help but marvel at the strange path that had led him here. Distinguished delegates, honored guests, fellow beings of the galaxy, he began, his translator working overtime to convey the mix of formality and humor he was aiming for. A few short months ago, I stood on the bridge of my ship, ready to unleash devastation upon your world. Today, I stand before you as a changed Fukan, ready to unleash. Well, mostly just a lot of bad jokes and the occasional karaoke performance. A ripple of laughter ran through the assembly. Zix-23 was pleased to note that it wasn't just the humans. Laughing representatives from a dozen other alien races were present, all drawn by the bizarre tales of Earth's conquest of the mighty Fukan. In all seriousness, he continued, the events that transpired on that fateful day have forced my people to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the universe and our place in it. We came to Earth seeking to harness its energy, never suspecting that the true power of this planet lay not in its resources, but in its people. He paused, his eye stalks scanning the room. The humans taught us something that centuries of conquest never could: the power of laughter, of joy, of coming together not in fear or subjugation, but in friendship and mutual understanding. And for that we are eternally grateful. As applause filled the chamber, Zix-23 couldn't help but think back to that first chaotic day. Who could have predicted that a malfunctioning weapon would lead to all this? Meanwhile, in a lab at Mate, Dr. Emma Rodriguez, now something of a celebrity in both scientific and alien relations circles, was hard at work. Surrounding her was a team of Earth's brightest minds, working alongside a group of enthusiastic Fukan scientists.
All right, folks, she said, clapping her hands to get everyone's attention. Today's the day. We're finally going to crack the secret of the giggle guns.
A Fukan scientist named Zlob raised a tentacle. Dr. Rodriguez, I must once again express my confusion. Our weapons were designed to harness the unique properties of Earth's atmosphere to disintegrate matter. Why are they causing this? Laughter response in humans. Emma grinned. That, my dear Zlob, is the $1,000,000 question. Or should I say, the $1,000,000 question. She winked at her alien colleague, who was still getting used to Earth humor. Our working theory, she continued, pulling up a holographic display that would have been science fiction just a few months ago, is that the energy signature of your weapons interacts with the human nervous system in a very specific way. Instead of disrupting cellular bonds, it stimulates the areas of the brain associated with joy and laughter. Fascinating, Zlob murmured, his eye stalks quivering with excitement. But why only humans? We tested these weapons on dozens of species across the galaxy. That's where it gets really interesting, Emma said, her eyes lighting up with scientific fervor. We think it has something to do with the unique cocktail of neurotransmitters in the human brain, specifically our capacity for finding humor in the absurd. She pulled up another diagram, this one showing the human brain alongside the Fukan equivalent. See this region here? In humans, it's associated with our ability to appreciate irony and absurdity. The closest analog in Fukan brains is much smaller. Are you suggesting, Zlob said slowly, that the key to humans' immunity to our most powerful weapons was your sense of humor? Emma nodded. Ironic, isn't it? The very thing that makes us human, our ability to laugh in the face of the absurd, is what saved us from annihilation. As the implications of this discovery sank in, a young intern burst into the lab, waving a tablet excitedly. Dr. Rodriguez, you're not going to believe this.
Emma took the tablet, her eyes widening as she read. Holy Einstein, she breathed. They want us to present our findings at the Galactic Science Symposium on Proxima Centauri b.
The lab erupted into cheers, humans and Fukans alike caught up in the excitement. As Emma looked around at her team, a mix of species that would have been unthinkable just a few months ago, she couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. "Well, folks," she said with a grin, "looks like we're going to need a bigger spaceship back at the United Nations." As Zix-23 concluded his speech, the assembly hall erupted into thunderous applause. Delegates from around the world, and indeed, around the galaxy, rose to their feet in a standing ovation. President Chen approached the podium, shaking Zix-23's hand or tentacle warmly. "Admiral," she said, her voice carrying across the hall, "on behalf of the people of Earth, I'd like to present you with this." She handed him a small, gleaming object. Zix-23 peered at it curiously with all three eyes. "What is it?" he asked. "It's called a key to the city," Chen explained. "It's a symbolic gesture, traditionally given to honored guests and heroes. Consider it an open invitation for you and your people to visit Earth anytime." Zix-23 felt a lump form in his throat, or the Fukan equivalent thereof. "Madam President," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I don't know what to say. We came here as conquerors, and you've welcomed us as friends." Chen smiled. "Well, Admiral, that's just how we roll here on Earth. Now, what do you say we wrap up these formal proceedings and show our galactic friends how we really celebrate on this planet?"
And with that, the most unlikely peace conference in Earth's history transitioned into the most unlikely after-party.
As night fell over New York City, the celebration spilled out onto the streets. Times Square was awash with a sea of humans and aliens, all dancing together under the neon lights. Street vendors quickly adapted their menus to cater to alien tastes, and soon the air was filled with the scent of hot dogs alongside more exotic fare from across the galaxy. In Central Park, a group of Fukan soldiers who had once been the spearhead of the invasion were now engaged in an intense game of frisbee with a team of NYPD officers. Nearby, an impromptu alien technology exhibition had sprung up, with Fukan engineers proudly showing off their gadgets to wide-eyed human children. On the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, a Fukan cultural attaché was engaged in a passionate debate with a group of art students about the nature of beauty across species. The discussion was frequently interrupted by fits of laughter as someone would occasionally pull out a giggle gun for a quick demonstration. As dawn broke over the city, casting a warm glow over the still ongoing festivities, Zix-23 found himself standing on the observation deck of the Empire State Building. Beside him stood President Chen, both of them nursing cups of coffee. The Admiral had become quite fond of the Earth beverage. "You know," Zix-23 said, gazing out over the awakening city, "when I first saw this planet from orbit, I thought it was just another conquest. Another stepping stone in the Fukan march across the galaxy. I never imagined that you'd end up enjoying our company so much." Chen finished with a smile. Zix-23 chuckled, a sound that would have been unthinkable from a Fukan just a few months ago. "Indeed, your people have taught us so much, Madam President. About joy, about friendship, about finding common ground, even in the face of vast differences." "Well," Chen said, taking a sip of her coffee, "that's kind of our specialty. We've had a lot of practice finding ways to get along despite our differences. I guess we just never realized that skill would come in handy for intergalactic diplomacy." Just then, Zix-23's communication device chirped. He glanced at it, his eye stalks widening in surprise. "Well, this is interesting," he muttered. "What is it?" Chen asked. "It seems," Zix-23 said slowly, "that word of our experience on Earth has spread throughout the galaxy. We're receiving messages from dozens of worlds that we've conquered over the years. They're all requesting cultural exchange programs." Chen burst out laughing. "Oh, that's perfect. You came to conquer the galaxy through force, and instead you're going to unite it through laughter and friendship. Talk about a plot twist." Zix-23 shook his head in wonder. "The Fukan High Command isn't going to know what hit them. We're going to need to completely restructure our entire society. Our economy was based almost entirely on conquest and subjugation. What are we supposed to do now?" Chen patted him on the shoulder, or what passed for a shoulder on a Fukan. "Don't worry, Admiral. We'll help you figure it out. That's what friends do, after all." As they stood there, watching the sun rise over a city and indeed a planet forever changed, Zix-23 couldn't help but marvel at the strange twists of fate that had led him here. He had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive world ripe for conquest. Instead, he had found a vibrant, chaotic, endlessly surprising species that had turned his entire worldview upside down. A species that had looked at the most fearsome weapons in the galaxy and seen an opportunity for joy rather than a cause for fear. In that moment, gazing out over the bustling city below, Zix-23 made a decision. The Fukan Empire had stood for centuries as a force of conquest and domination. Perhaps it was time for a new direction. Perhaps it was time for the Fukan to learn from the humans, to embrace joy and friendship rather than fear and subjugation. It wouldn't be easy. Centuries of ingrained behavior and belief wouldn't change overnight. But as he looked at the diverse crowd below humans and aliens alike, laughing and celebrating together, Zix-23 felt something he had never experienced before in all his years of military service. Hope.
As if reading his thoughts, President Chen raised her coffee cup in a toast. To the future, she said. May it be filled with more laughter than fear, more understanding than conflict.
Zix-23 raised his own cup, clinking it gently against hers. To the future, he agreed, and to the remarkable species that taught the conquerors how to laugh. And so, as a new day dawned on Earth, it marked not just the beginning of a new era for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. An era where the most powerful weapon wasn't a doomsday device or a planet killer, but a shared laugh between former enemies. The invasion that had started with a bang had ended with a chuckle. And somehow, improbably beautifully, that chuckle was echoing across the stars, bringing light to worlds that had known only darkness, and hope to species that had known only fear. It was, without a doubt, the greatest practical joke the universe had ever seen, and humanity in all its chaotic, joyful, absurd glory was right at the center of it all. As news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy, other worlds began to take notice. Species that had long lived in fear of the Fukan Empire watched in amazement as the fearsome conquerors were transformed into intergalactic party planners. Diplomats from 1,000 worlds descended upon Earth, eager to learn the secrets of the small blue planet that had accomplished the impossible. The United Nations found itself hosting the largest, most diverse assembly in the history of the galaxy. And at the center of it all were the humans, still laughing, still adapting, still finding ways to turn the most absurd situations to their advantage. They welcomed each new alien species with open arms and a ready joke, breaking down barriers of fear and mistrust with nothing more than a well-timed quip and a friendly smile. As for the giggle guns, they found a new purpose. Repurposed and refined by joint human-Fukan science teams, they became a revolutionary tool for conflict resolution. Intergalactic peace talks were now punctuated by strategic deployments of laughter-inducing energy, diffusing tensions and reminding everyone involved of the absurdity of conflict in the face of a vast and wondrous universe. And so, the human race took its first steps into a larger galaxy, not as conquerors or victims, but as the universe's most unlikely diplomats. Armed with nothing more than their wit, their adaptability, and their irrepressible spirit, they set out to teach the cosmos how to laugh. It wasn't always easy. There were misunderstandings, cultural clashes, and moments of tension. But whenever things got too serious, someone would inevitably pull out a giggle gun, and soon the air would be filled with the sound of laughter, human and alien alike. In the end, it turned out that the Fukan had been right about one thing: Earth did indeed hold the key to unimaginable power. But it wasn't in the planet's atmosphere or its resources. It was in the hearts and minds of its people, in their ability to find joy in the face of adversity, to build bridges where others saw only chasms. And as the people of Earth looked up at the stars, they no longer saw a vast, empty void filled with potential threats. Instead, they saw a galaxy full of new friends they hadn't met yet, new jokes they hadn't shared, new adventures they hadn't experienced. The invasion that never was had opened up a universe of possibilities. And humanity, with its irrepressible spirit and its newly discovered galactic stand-up routine, was ready to explore every single one of them. After all, in a universe full of wonders and terrors, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is laugh. And if there's one thing humans know how to do, it's face the absurd with a grin and a chuckle. So here's to humanity, the species that laughed in the face of invasion and ended up conquering the galaxy with a joke. May we never lose our ability to find humor in the darkest of times, to build friendships in the most unlikely of places, and to always be ready with a witty comeback when the universe throws us a curveball. Because in the end, that's what makes us human. And, as it turns out, that's what makes us pretty darn special in this big, weird, wonderful galaxy of ours.